to Sugar Coated. I'm your host, Adrienne Garland, the CEO and founder of She Leads Media. For far too long, women have been conditioned to sugarcoat their words, their actions, and the way they show up in the world, and to conform to certain cultural norms and ideals. This is inherently designed to keep those who are outside of the norm from gaining power, prestige, wealth, and influence, preventing more women from being recognized and respected as the powerful leaders that we truly are. Join me each week as we dive into raw conversations with remarkable, uncompromising, and inspirational women that will encourage you to strip away your sugarcoating and move boldly in the direction of your magnificent dreams. Hi, everybody, and welcome to Sugar Coated. I am so excited to introduce my next guest to you. Her name is Mindie Barnett, and she is the founder and CEO of MB& Associates. But not only that, Mindie's a two-time author, a podcast host, and she is pursuing her MS in clinical psychology at Pepperdine University. Welcome to Sugar Coated, Mindie.
Oh, thanks for having me. That was so nice. I love that intro.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to have you here. And I also just wanted to make sure that I did a little bit of a shout out about how I met you.
Okay.
And that was through our mutual friend, Paulina Lopez. And you and I met at the Business of We, Women Entrepreneurs Summit this past year. Gosh, I don't even remember timelines or anything like that.
No, I remember the Phillies were playing the next day because I went to the playoff game. I think it was in maybe October. Yeah, it was right October.
October
Okay.
2022. And it was at the lovely TWA Hotel at JFK, which is super cool and retro. And I was walking in and there was Mindie in all her glory. And we walked in together and just hit it off right away. So thank you to Paulina Lopez for bringing us together. And now Mindie and I are great friends. And Mindie spoke and hosted the Pitch the Media panel at the She Leads conference. So truly a full circle moment. And I am so thrilled to just have you here today and dive into everything just around your journey. And we were just talking before the beginning of this podcast, how you're sort of in the third chapter of your career journey. So let's go back maybe, or maybe let's start with where we are today. Let's start with where we are today.
Sure.
So tell me a little bit about, what you're doing, what you're pursuing, and why you're moving into this whole world of psychotherapy.
Okay, absolutely. I'm so excited to be here with you. Okay, so I just wanted to share that too. All right, so I am obviously the founder and CEO of MB& Associates PR, which is my day job, to say the least, and for what it's worth, my main priority. And I am not giving up MB& Associates anytime soon, but like many entrepreneurs and women, I have a lot of interests, and I have written a couple of books, and in doing so, was out at book signings and using it to keynote speak, because I'm also a keynote speaker at conferences and things like that in terms of leading with empathy and really just believing in yourself and making change and things of that nature. And I loved when people would come up to me after I spoke or even at book signings and then just ask me for advice. And I felt so good to be able to use trials and triumphs and what have you from my past to like give people courage or some sort of like give them a spark to light their fire, so to speak. And then during the pandemic, I just kind of like, obviously like the rest of us had a lot of time to soul search and think. And I thought, let me just back up for a minute. Whenever I would give advice, I always preface and said, I'm not a therapist, but this is what I've done, or I'm not a mental health expert, but this is what I do, And I thought, wow, what a great opportunity to continue my education, which is always something that I've wanted to do. I just didn't know what I wanted to get my master's degree in,
Mm.
and then have a greater impact, being able to, obviously earn the credentials, but then be able to treat people as an actual bona fide therapist once I get my licensure, and also use it in my keynoting. It gives me more credibility, but it also gives me more knowledge and therefore a stronger skill set to be able to pay it forward. So that's really, at this juncture in my life, I believe that's my calling at this point. I think PR is, and my personality and obviously my news talent, and not talent, but news knowledge, I should say, is providing me with a gift that I can share with business owners and so forth. And I love it. So I'm not closing the door just yet anywhere anytime soon on that. But I definitely want to, plan for my future as I get ready for a milestone birthday in a year, and knowing what the stress level is in PR and all that goes into it, and the fact that I'm a hustler and I'll always work, what a career might look like when I'm, say, 85.
Yes.
So there's a lot of reasons behind it. So I'm at Pepperdine, as we chatted about. I'm a full-time graduate student there in their online program, which is fairly new. They launched it during the pandemic, and they make it very much like a live experience, which is something that in my years of not being tech savvy, I definitely would need. I don't think I'd succeed if I was fully on my own, but I'm doing well, at least up until now. I was just telling my assistant I have all A's and 1 B+, except I'm taking pharmacology, which is basically neuroscience, and I have an exam tonight. And if I pass this class, I'll be grateful.
Oh, I am sure that you will pass the class with flying colors. You are brilliant. Yeah, no, I know it is very difficult, but I'm really impressed that you have committed to yourself. And, I personally think, just knowing you and seeing you on stage doing, what you do, I do think that you're going to be on stage when you're 85 years old, bringing that same type of energy. I know you will. And I think what's cool, you definitely will. And what's super cool is that when you get off stage and people say, hey, can you give me some advice? You will be able to give them advice as a licensed therapist, and you can actually charge them.
Yes, I know. It's so funny. I was talking to a friend a couple of nights ago who often calls me when he's in trial. And I'm like, my rate's going to be XXX.
That's right.
It's like, for a tag. I'm like, I'm just joking.
That's right.
Yeah, no, that's true. Yeah.
I love that. So, oh my gosh. Yeah. And I love to, it doesn't matter how old you are and all of that kind of stuff, but I love this idea, especially for women entrepreneurs, that, it's not over, or where you start is not necessarily where you end up. And we can always be evolving and growing. It doesn't matter how old you are. I mean, you're not 85, you're, so far away from that. I think that what you're doing and what you're pursuing is adding this level of credibility. Not that you weren't credible before, very credible, very, accomplished, but this does add something else. And I think that's a lesson that other women entrepreneurs that are listening to this podcast, that they can take away. Yeah. You didn't know when you were pursuing your news career that you were going to have your own PR firm, that you were going to pursue, psychotherapy. So kind of take us back and tell us a little bit about how you got into the newsroom. I mean, you were a reporter, a news reporter. So tell us a little bit about that. It's so good.
As you said that, I'm like, if you had told me when I was like in college, I went to Hofstra. If you told me when I was like 21 and I was like this hungry like journalist to be, that I was going to be in PR and then eventually like go back to school for psychology, I would have thought you were insane. Yeah. So I had the bug to be a journalist, a broadcast journalist, when I was in 8th grade. Wow. I will give you a very Cliff Notes version, so not to bore your listeners and probably you, Adrienne, but nevertheless, never. I was always, as I'm sure you're shocked to know, a performer. I love to be on stage. I sing, I dance, I act, and love to write. So my father, who was very influential in my life, as was my mother, but my father was sort of a mentor to me. gave me the idea to sort of combine all of my skills and use it in broadcast news. So I was like, all right, that's what I want to do. And I was so excited about it. And I in high school took like a lot of media classes and did some like internships and things. And then just literally picked Hofstra because of their very strong communications department. Interned, I studied abroad. I like lived and died for news. Like that was all I cared about, was being on the air. I didn't care where I had to go. I didn't care how much money I was going to make, because trust me, it's literally like less than minimum wage, basically. When all is said and done, when you first start out. I remember once doing a story in Louisiana where I lived, and earlier in my career, it was about like the Salvation Army's campaign, like for Christmas. And like somehow we got into chatting about who qualifies for food stamps. And I remember listening to them tell me, and I was like, I literally could qualify for, I could 100%, like
right here, right now.
Stamps. And I was working like a dog, but I loved what I did, so it didn't matter. In fact, most days I would go to work and be like, I can't believe they're paying me to do this. Then I like moved around. I was in television news for 10 years. I was a morning anchor for the majority of like my career, especially towards like, I guess after like year 3 onward. And that basically entailed getting up in the middle of the night, getting to the station by 4 a.m., anchoring, reporting. I loved it. But as I hit about 30, I still loved it, but I felt lonely. It was hard to like date. I was living very far from my family. It was just kind of me and my dog. I had friends, but they weren't like my lifelong friends. And my friends were starting to get married and have children. And I just sort of felt like I wanted more than this amazing career. So when I was at Hofstra, just to back up for a moment, I did an internship because my dad always said to prepare for the rainy day, and like you may not make it in news and you should always be prepared. So I minored in public speaking and PR, and I did an internship for the vice president of my university for 2 years, where I actually worked in the PR division of Hofstra, writing press releases and things like that. So I had that under my belt, so to speak. So I left TV. It was an extremely difficult decision. Like talk about a pivot. That was like pivoting in like cement. Like it was like thick cement. Like you can't even turn your body because you're like, or quicksand and you're sinking. I was like, because it was so ingrained. I wanted it since I was in 8th grade, and I actually achieved it. Not to the level I could have continued and hopefully gone to bigger markets, but it was just hard. I felt like I was giving up a dream. I was giving up on myself. It was part of my identity. So I left because I wanted more. So, and I told myself, Mindie, if it doesn't work out in PR, it's not what you thought, you can always go back into news. So I worked for a PR firm. The woman who ran it was like a complete and utter nasty person. That's all I'll say. The culture was not good, although she was basically the inspiration for my second book. You don't need to be a BITCH to be a boss, but it taught me a lot of things about leadership that I now try my very best not to adhere to, and that kind of thing. But nevertheless, left, and I really had nothing, and was shopping in a store, and the owner of the boutique needed PR, and I'm giving you like a very fast, like
I love this though. And there's so much in there too that I'm going to probably go back to.
I literally wrote a book about this, so I'm trying to like not. All right, so we negotiated like a 6-month situation because I said I'm going back into TV news. I definitely don't want to do PR. I just assumed like if that was PR, where I was, like I didn't want anything to do with it. And it was ugly and like not like really just not the right energy that went with me. And so I helped her, and it was right around Christmas time that I started with her. And as I mentioned, she was a boutique. So I was garnering her like all this media coverage, and it was an expensive boutique. Like her apparel was high end, and she had a lot of influential high end customers that shopped there. As a women's store, but their husbands or them, like, but in this situation, not to stereotype, their husbands were sort of like the worker bees in their families. Their husbands, were all powerful people, and they were basically like, who's getting you all this media? Oh, and then she was nice enough to share my information, and then these husbands were hiring me. So
amazing.
I know, I was lucky.
Serendipity.
So in like 5 months, I had 6 clients.
Wow.
I didn't even have an LLC set up. I had nothing. It was just, they were just paying me. And then I got this job offer to be an anchor in a market that was not far from my hometown. And I was sort of at a crossroads, and I decided to take a leap of faith and actually like open up my PR firm officially and
Wow.
named it MB and Associates and all of that. And then 20 years, it'll be 20 years this coming December in 2023 that I've had the firm. We've evolved and grown and, growing pains, and we've withstood the recession of 2008. And, I had a lot of drama, I have a lot of learning lessons and things like that. But I have a really great team. I've learned for myself, like lean and mean is the way to go in terms of management. For me, I'll never be a boss that basically, or, entrepreneur that's not in the weeds. I know that's probably to my detriment in terms of growth, but I really like to be hands-on. And I also feel like at the end of the day, the client's hiring the company, but they're hiring me
They're
too.
hiring you.
And
It's your name.
yeah,
Yeah, it is your name, and it's your
yeah.
approach, which works.
Thank you. It's so I need to be engaged. And so in order to be engaged, I can't have a whole big team of management too. It's a whole other job. So, I mean, I have great, talented, amazing people. I have 3. And for us, maybe I'll do one more in New York because they're all based in South Jersey where our main offices are. But that's like, that works. It's like the magic number for us. And definitely have had more and less, over time. And that's sort of where I am right now. Like, it's enabling me to grow, help. We have, lots of clients in New York. We have lots of clients, and I have a presence, home office in New York too, which is sort of my love affair, if you will. And then obviously we have a lot of clients in LA, coincidentally where Pepperdine happens to be situated. It was just osmosis, I think. I don't know. Like manifesting that. But it's really good. And I'm very busy, and everyone's like, I don't know how you're doing everything. But I guess I thrive on like just not having a lot of downtime. I think being in news, I think that put that, mindset in my ingrained
DNA
in my brain.
Yeah. It's how you operate now. Gosh, Mindie, there's just so much in everything that you said. And, just one of the things that I observe is it was sort of like you came to this crossroads, like this thing that you absolutely loved, but it wasn't exactly what you pictured it to be. And that it didn't provide you with the fulfillment that you thought that it would. And to pivot away from that, like you said, it was so difficult to do. And then you were like, I'm not, if this doesn't work, which is never a great mindset, right? Like, if this doesn't work, I'm going back. And it just seems that everything aligned for you. And when you made the decision to go ahead and launch your company, you were presented with a literal choice to go back to news or to pursue your own company. I feel like that was the universe, like just being so clear, like, make a choice, Mindie.
Yeah, no, it's true. I just got chills as you were saying that. Adrienne, it's funny because I have this recurring dream.
Tell me why.
I don't think I've ever shared this. Is like psychoanalytics right now. I never really shared this with anybody. Maybe I shared this with like a friend. I don't know. But anyway, long story short, I have this recurring dream that I go back to like my last news anchor job, which was in Champaign, Illinois, and I decide to like not shut MB and Associates down, but keep it. But I'm going to do it from afar, and I still have my team, but now I'm going to be this morning anchor again, and I was going to be able to pitch. And then I like, almost like, it's like a night, it's like one of those nightmares that you wake yourself up from. Like, and I was like, wait, why did I do that? I loved my MD and Associates. And then I'm like, oh, it's just a dream. Yeah. It's so weird. I think I think I needed to make a conscious decision, because when I was doing it initially, it was like really to make ends meet, and I was successful at it, and I was getting, organically, I wasn't looking for clients. They were organically coming to me, and I was grateful for it, but it wasn't like I was like pounding the pavement looking to grow my business. I didn't even really think of it as a business, to be honest with you. It was just sort of like passing time.
Yeah. Maybe that's what the dream is about, though, is like your mind trying to make sense of making the choice that you want rather than the choice that you thought you needed to make in order to make money.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
You sure you don't
Oh,
go to
no, I'm good.
Pepperdine?
Oh, I'm good. You got to talk to one of my friends. His name is Dominic. He literally texts me all the time and says like, I had this dream about this. And then I'm like, okay, tell me more. And then,
No, that's probably
yeah,
right.
yeah, no,
Yes.
it's
No,
good.
that makes perfect sense. That makes me feel better because I'm like, why am I dreaming about like WICD, Champagne, NBC
Yeah.
News? Like,
Yeah.
why
It's
should I
why.
have not left? Should I go back into TV? And that makes
No.
sense. I guess
Yeah.
because it's like I wanted that. It wasn't like I had to do it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So good. And thank you so much for sharing that. Maybe I will
Yeah.
turn my show from sugar coated into dream analysis.
Yeah. Or Dreamweaver.
Dreamweaver. Oh my, do you know how much fun that would be for me? I
Yeah.
love dream analysis because our minds, I love that you're doing psychotherapy. Like our minds are so interesting and they are so tricky.
They
And oh
are.
my God. And
Yeah.
they're so good because you don't know what you're doing to yourself. And it's just so hard to like unwind all of that. But I guess that's an entirely different show.
That's so cool. I
Yeah.
know. I find everything I'm learning is like so interesting. Even now, even with this horrific class, the neuroscience class, I was just with the neurotransmitters and the chemicals and why you like people have depression. It's just like so interesting. But now that I know you're a dream analysis expert, I will be texting you as well because I am not good at interpreting dreams.
Oh
So
yeah.
I appreciate that.
It's so good. So the other thing that I wanted to mention is that you have also introduced me to a couple of different people, one of which was just on the show, an incredible women entrepreneur. So in your business, your PR business, just want to kind of lean into that a little bit because so many people, women entrepreneurs, what I hear from them all the time is, I want to get myself out there. Like those are the literal words that they use. And when you start asking them like, well, what do you mean I want to get myself out there? They want to be known by people. And, they want to get invited on podcasts. They want to maybe have a book or get on a television show or be quoted as an expert in an article, even if it's, some type of a industry article or something like that. So can you provide just a little bit of advice and what you do for clients, specifically women entrepreneurs?
Sure.
And then, what could somebody do to start to get themselves out there?
Okay. So I'll answer the second part first, if that's okay, what people can do. So first, you have to be very clear on what your lane is. Where do you stand? What do you do, obviously? So let's just pick an industry. Let's just stick with finance, right? You work with maybe your niche is women, and you work with women on retirement planning and saving, and because women are notoriously bad with money. And, you come up with like a trend based on whatever is like making headlines. As we record this, it's like the end of January, right? So Valentine's Day is like on the cusp. So I would think, okay, Valentine's Day, getting married, combining money, or if you're thinking of unfortunately divorcing or you're in the middle of a divorce, like what you should do to protect your money. That's another issue that women, I know this because I rep some financial people and I've been through a divorce, but nevertheless, women have speak on both sides. Women have a tendency not to know where their money is. Like, men are traditionally like the ones who handle like the finances for the family and things like that. So something like that, which is obviously a little bit on the, I don't want to say ugly, but like maybe like Debbie Downer side, but it's a really good story. And it's also a play on the Valentine's Day marriage to like love or splitting or whatever. Or you could do it the other way. If you're looking to get married, like this is like the 5 things that you need to know. That's 2 really good pitch ideas for any of your financial experts listening right now.
I love that.
Then you need to know who to pitch. So it could be a television producer where you go on air and you speak in your local news, outlet or what have you. Or it could be a features writer or someone who writes specifically about money or finance for your local paper. Or it could be a podcast that focuses on relationships, like Race for the Ring, or your podcast that focuses on female entrepreneurs, or on any other one that focuses on lifestyle or things of that nature. And you just really need to do some homework. You need to know like who to pitch and where to pitch. Like, that if, like for instance, just sticking with that love financial angle,
Mm-hmm.
you're not going to pitch a writer who covers like City Hall, right?
Right.
Or you're not going to pitch a podcast that focuses on technology or something
Right.
like that. It's just a waste of time, and it makes the other side, the media, angry almost, because you're not doing your homework and you don't care. You're just looking to get your news information out, and you need to spin it in such a way that you're looking to help listeners, viewers, readers, what have you. So you're offering free, quote, cliche, but fits news you can use, free content, and you're being positioned as a thought leader. So that's a very quick way to get out there. It's not going to take a quick second to make it happen, but that if you're willing to do some homework and do like some legwork and make a creative idea, and obviously be aggressive in following up, because sometimes they'll write you right back and they love the idea and it's easy breezy. But I'd say 9 times out of 10, it's me being an aggressive squeaky wheel that gets the oil, so to speak, where I'm following up and asking and seeing if they saw my story idea or whatever. Sometimes it doesn't work out, and that's okay too. Then you just reach out to another one that is sort of in the same vein, so to speak. So that's how you can do that. And I actually work with small business owners who want PR, but don't necessarily have the budget for PR, to teach them the tools to do something like that. So that's nothing that I'm usually advertising, because it's a really small piece of my puzzle, but I do that because I feel like I have these skills and I want to pay it forward in a way, and help people.
I love that.
For me, I do all of that, and then obviously taking it to a whole other level. We're very aggressive in coming up with story ideas, and we're pitching not just like, say, a local news outlet once. We're pitching like maybe 5 or 6 in tandem, not necessarily the same story, but like different angles. So like sticking with finance, like that financial person could also be maybe they get back to philanthropy in some way, or they're an executive on a board. Like I might pitch it that way and focus on what they're doing, or maybe they are, there's another angle that they're involved. Maybe as a leader or something like that, is an entrepreneur feature or what have you. So it has nothing to really do with finance, but their financial company and their name is obviously going to be in the news in that capacity. And then we'll obviously think of financial stories in that way.
This is such great information. Thank you so much. And
sure.
one of the things that I love, that I think sometimes, when women do say, I want to get myself out there, they think, how can I get on the Today Show? And what you just said is so important. There are local news outlets that are looking for stories. They're looking for people. They're looking for experts. And, don't poo-poo those local news outlets. They're the best places to go because they need news all the time.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, Adrienne, they're hard too. I mean, they're obviously easier than the Today Show.
Yeah.
But I often tell my clients, well, a national outlet like the Today Show is fantastic. And we do work with that show, and we work with all the other ones too. The people that are looking to turn on the news and get the weather and get like quick out the door on the morning shows, that's your core audience. They're all watching their local shows.
Yeah.
The people watching the national shows, they might have more time on their hands because they're like the time slots a little later, or, I don't know, whatever. I mean, and it's obviously national, so it's going to be in your market, but it's also going to be across the board all over the US too. But the local, hyper local news outlets are really like the best if you're like in, say, New York City or, wherever your company is based. If it's not, you don't have like multiple offices like all over the United States, which I would imagine starting out entrepreneurs don't.
Yeah. And, one of the other things too that you mentioned that I think is super key is if you don't have the budget to hire somebody like you who knows how to craft stories and pitches and knows all the outlets and all of that kind of stuff, that you have to do the work. You can't just say, hey, this is me. I'm great. Like, quote
Yeah.
me as an expert. You need
Yeah.
to research the reporter. You need to research the publication. You need to see what all of the other stories that they've been writing about lately. And you also do need to have a little bit of creativity. Like you talked about the angle for, of love, right? It doesn't necessarily need to be Valentine's Day, but what does Valentine's Day represent? It represents love. It's relationships. Once you can start thinking of those other terms, you can decide, does what I do fit into that? Is it relevant? If it's not, and you can't come up with something that makes sense, don't just try and force your story into Valentine's Day.
Totally. 100% agree. My advice is really to see what's trending and what's seasonal and what the news cycle is looking like. I mean, here in the Philly area where I'm sitting right now, the Eagles are in the playoffs. So all the news outlets are looking all about the Eagles. So we're pitching like, anything pertaining to that. Like what is sticking with finance? I don't know why I am horrible with money, but that's just where I'm going today. So I'll go with it. For my financial guy, we're pitching like, what does this mean for the city if the Eagles go to the Super Bowl? And like that kind of stuff. And my client, my mental health expert out in LA, where they just had all these horrible shootings, like we're pitching more like what the community needs to heal and how to overcome this as a community and like stand together and fear and how to overcome that and like things of that nature. So it really depends where you are, what's trending, what's seasonal, what the news cycle is, that's going around. Even if it's a national story, how can you localize it? Like that kind of thing, And yeah, I mean, to do your homework, you wouldn't like send out stuff on social media or marketing material that's just like sloppily done with misspellings and things like that. It's sort of like the same thing, the my take home for everyone listening is that the media does not need you. I'll repeat that. The media does not need you. You need the media. So you need to show them what you bring to the table to help them do their jobs that much better, which at the end of the day is serving their readers, listeners, and viewers, right?
Yeah, that's gold, Mindie. That is gold.
Thanks.
And, I hope that everybody listening throughout this whole conversation, that's one thing that they take away. And it leads me into also this idea and this concept, right? You have media that is already existing, some of the local outlets, some of the bigger outlets, but then there's also platforms, and you very effectively have your own media platform. You have your podcast, which is a media platform, and you also have the books that you've written, which are your media platform. So can you talk just a little bit about, was that something that you specifically chose to create for yourself as a media outlet, or was that more that you just wanted to share your information and have those two different media properties gotten your own type of coverage in maybe some bigger media outlets?
Absolutely. So I love to write and I find it therapeutic, and I always wanted to write a book. So I wrote the first book for that reason, but I really wrote it too because I wanted to get into the keynote speaking circuit, and I didn't know really how to break in. I mean, I could have gone on stage and talked all about PR, which now I sometimes do, but I really didn't want to be known as, this savvy publicist and just, not just, but like offering like news you can use and things so people can move the needle on their own, which was foolish because in retrospect, because I think that when I do offer like all my topics, that tends to be the most popular of all. But nevertheless, I wrote Intermission, How Forever Friendships and Faith Took Me to the Second Act, to use that as a tool to write a leadership book. A leadership keynote. And then loved it, was successful with it, and then really got like the bug with the book business. And my publisher is like, and they like to go back up for just a minute to push the book and the message of the book and all of these book signings I was doing was also booking my office. I didn't pitch myself, but like were pitching me to go on different outlets and talk about lessons that were in the book, and then also plug the book signings that I was doing and things of that nature. So that's sort of how I built that platform. And then I did something very similar, basically duplicate for you don't need to, can I say the word?
Yeah,
I don't know. You don't need to be a bitch to be a boss. Okay. Which is that Leading with Empathy book, and how not to compete and things like that with other women. And then that's really like, I feel like each project gets better, sort of like yourself. And so that is like, I'm very, very proud of that book. And I have intentions of writing a third book rather, after I graduate, using it more of my psychology knowledge in that space. But I used it for the keynoting, and then via the book for the intention of promoting the book, obviously used it for media. And I was branded along the way as a thought leader in these different spaces. The podcast was really created because I wanted a passion project. I like miss being on air. I do some things on air, not just with the books, but like lifestyle contributing and things like that. But I just wanted to do something fun for me. And I really was initially going to make it more along a line with the books. Well, it was just the one book at the time, Intermission, make it all about that and focus on entrepreneurs and what like maybe darkness that they had that they were able to overcome, which would have been great and fun. And I could have fun, but I felt like that was more serious.
Yeah.
And I wanted to just have fun and like show like my personality and sort of like let my hair down.
Yeah.
And so I chose The Race for the Ring because it was also like I was starting to date, which was also a little bit about woven in the book, not really the main mission of the book, that kind of thing. So it's taken off. And they sort of like intermittently, I've interviewed a lot of therapists because we talk about, we do fun topics. And then we also talk about more serious subject matters like narcissism and like personality disorders and overall and like just dating and relationships and things that could go awry and advice. Through that channel of knowledge also inspired me to pursue my degree in psychology too.
So good. All of these things, if you kind of take that 30,000 foot look and you see all of these things that you've done for yourself, also that you sort of have listened to yourself, you know yourself, you're making conscious choices, and then everything does fit together. I think that people can look at you and the different things that you do and really, model not themselves after you. I don't want to suggest that, but all of the different things that you've done, there's so many different lessons there, and it's a real nice like 360 picture of.
Thank you.
It really is. And it
wasn't intentional.
You know what?
But that's sometimes the way the universe works, right, Adrienne?
Yeah.
You have to sort of just trust yourself and just go for it.
That's the, I don't know. I'm sure that what you're going to write for your third book, but I do think.
Yes, I'm calling it Old Maid.
What, really? That's a great.
I think so.
Okay, I love it.
No, it's not going to be a memoir. Because I'm not an old maid. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
No, I don't know. I think I want to write about why the trend in women not getting married or waiting later in life to get married. And that's the horrible expression people call women that get married later in life or aren't married yet. Yeah. So I was playing off of that because I think it's awful. And I think it's great, like to believe in yourself. And anyway, I love it. I shouldn't have probably said that because whatever, maybe it won't happen. No. I might write about something completely different, but that's sort of what I'm thinking.
It's a great, it's a great idea. And in fact, and Mindie, I think that you and I do this. I think we could talk about everything all day, every day. Yeah. But what I read recently just on that subject is there's a lot of evidence that shows that women that are, successful and that really lean into their career, that they actually don't have a romantic partner because the societal expectations of what a woman should be, it's like those women are throwing that out the door. They don't need men to sort of provide for them and make money. And so in a lot of ways, it makes them less attractive to men who
100%.
their desire
Yes.
is
You
to
hit
help.
the nail with the nail on the head.
It's
Yeah.
crazy
Yeah.
because it's like we want to be successful and we want to be fully realized and all of that. And then it's having, depending on what your perspective is, it's having maybe a negative consequence on the
Yes.
personal side of things because, we need relationships too.
Yes,
right?
of course we do.
Yeah.
Everybody needs connection.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's an interesting new trend and
Yes.
puzzle that we're still trying to figure out. I think at least some of the women I would interview women in like all different creeds and, like areas of the country and stuff and do some like research. But I think that women lean in heavily on each other.
Yeah.
For those, it's not the same as having a romantic partner at all.
No.
But I think women find some sort of comfort and, encouragement and connection, certainly through other female friendships.
Yeah.
Today more than they have in the past.
Yes.
But I do believe that it's a double-edged sword. So you work hard on your career and you become successful and maybe you get, you're not focused on marriage right away, like maybe right out of college because you're maybe pursuing other degrees or you're just starting your business or whatever you're doing, right? And then hit whatever, 35 or 40 maybe even say, and you really want to, I want to have a family, I want more, whatever, that looks like for you. And now you're super successful and you're almost intimidating to the men, even power men. They like that are extremely successful themselves don't necessarily want a partner that's going to be with a similar resume.
No.
Yeah. So it's tricky. It's hard.
The double-edged sword of old maidhood. I love it.
God.
I love it. It's so good. So, Mindie, thank you so much for this incredible conversation. It was just filled with so much insight and knowledge and takeaways and practical advice and so much fun. I definitely am going to have you come back with the next book. I love that. Yeah. And just to anybody wants to get in touch with you, if they want to read your books and just dive into the world of Mindie, where can they find you?
Oh, it's a scary place to be. I'm just kidding. Okay, so Instagram is sort of like my sweet spot, and my Insta handle is Mindie, MINDIE Barnett, BARNETT. My company website is really long and convoluted, but it's which is spelled out, associatespr.com. My podcast is The Race for the Ring. It's on Apple, Stitcher, iHeart, anywhere you can find your podcast. So please subscribe.
Yes.
And my books are both on Amazon and in bookstores. The first one is called Intermission, How Fervor, Friendships, and Faith Took Me to the Second Act. And the second one is called You Don't Need to Be a Bitch to Be a Boss.
Oh my God. I love it so much. We're going to get all of this in the show notes. And just thank you so much. And I cannot wait to see you in real life soon.
Yes, we need to do that. We need to get together in New York City and have like happy hour or power lunch.
Love it.
Fun. Okay, good.
I love the power lunch. Okay.
Yeah,
Mindie.
we'll go to Avra.
I love it. Yes.
Okay.
Okay. I'll talk to you soon.
Okay. Bye.
This is the She Leads Podcast Network.